Hello everyone out there in TV, DVD and movie land. Today this is the Spanner Man and today I'm going to do one of my favourite comedies from childhood. It's Only Fools and Horses, an English comedy programme that ran from about 1981 to 2001 or 2 in England. It's a classic English programme. It's rated up to about 26 million, I think, for a Christmas special in about 96-7. One of my favourite programmes from childhood. I used my dad's VHS recorder and his videotapes to tape. This is my first episode that I ever taped. It's called A Greater Love, and it's in the yellow DVD box for series 2, and it's the first episode I did. So I'm going to talk along while we play, and when I say 1, 2, 3 play, we will play and we can watch the episode together. Let's hope you Americans out there and all you other foreigners who might be listening, that you get the English humour as much as we love this programme. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3, play. And there's the classic theme tune in the old English market. Stick a pony in my pocket. This is Only Fools and Horses. It's written by John Sullivan. Sadly no longer with us. Died about a year ago now, I think, from time of recording. And there's David Jason playing Del Boy Trotter, and Nicholas Lyndhurst playing his hapless brother Rodney Trotter, and Leonard Pierce, the old character granddad. My ex-wife used to think he was the best one, because Uncle Albert came later on after Leonard Pierce died, having had a heart attack. And this is my favourite episode. I love this one. There's the old Robin Reliant. In my work, I've MOT'd those and fell over whilst turning a corner, driving the things because they're so unstable. And there they are, the two greatest, one of the two of the greatest comedy actors of all time in England. David Jason and Nicholas Lyndhurst, that wearing the overgrown coat, trying to sell it to his own brother. This is stunning, this stuff. I mean, David Jason, he'd got this job from coming from Open All Hours, I think. He'd played Granville in that with Ronnie Barker, another stalwart of English comedy. And the head of serials actually wanted the man who would later play Roy Slater, an actor you might know about, actually Jim Broadbent, but he wouldn't commit to playing Del Boy for a long series. So luckily we got David Jason instead, and here he is in all his glory selling the old underwear. I know this episode so well. I used to recite this and do all the voices and stuff with my nan and I did it in front of my nan and granddad and my auntie, I think. I used to actually recite the whole episode to him. See, there's a score you owe me. Sort of making money off his own brother there with his big coat. See, I never really understood. Americans don't really like losers, do they? That's the common practice. I mean, these were like hearty losers, I know. It's a sort of, they used to have a programme in England called Minder on ITV with Dennis Warman and George Cole. And they used to... it was a similar premise, but more of a comedy drama. This is the BBC equivalent, and it was great. This is where the series took off, actually. Season 1 hadn't been much of a success, and as not in America. America makes like 20 episodes of a season, don't they? In England, you have one writer, not a team of writers, and he writes 6 episodes if you're lucky. And I think this season, the first season had 6 or 7 episodes, including the Christmas special, and this had 7 episodes, season 2. How young David Jason looks there. Apparently an electrician, I think, from early years, and got into acting a bit later on. I think Ronnie Barker took him under his wing for a while, and there's I can't remember her name, but she used to go out with Bob Grant from On the Buses. Another great comedy that I might do one day for all us concerned. I think her name was Gay Brown. I think she was in an episode of On the Buses where she played the cafeteria girl, and she was also in I think it was the haunting in one of the hauntings in an American thing. She played the old loony hag, I think, in that. If you check that, you'll all know. You might see her there. Looks totally different now. She's there playing the attractive old woman who Rodus there, played by Nicholas Lyndhurst, another stalwart of English comedy. He was in Going Straight with Ronnie Barker, a spin-off from Porridge, which wasn't a big success. He played Ronnie Barker's son. And now he's here, and he was in Butterflies, another big English sitcom written by Carla Lane. Never really appreciated that one very much. He sort of played one of the toffee-nosed kids of the family. It was a bit of a weird programme, never really enjoyed Butterflies. But this is brilliant. Here we go. Going Gonna see the husband on the wall. Bloody hell, he's a big bloke. And of course, you wouldn't, from the accent here, is perfect, common, working class, if you like. But Lyndhurst is quite a sort of RP, posh English. He does the received pronunciation. There they are. He's going about chatting up the "Where's your husband?" and she's looking good. We're just about to get an old-fashioned joke that the youngsters of today wouldn't get. Bit of a split there for Rodders to have a look at. He's fancying that, all right. He's going to have a go at doing the zip-up for her. Because, I mean, this is what they used to do, is to sell stuff out of a suitcase. And they were like, used to get done for fly pitching and stuff, which means setting up a stall in the middle of a market and just selling stuff. And I just remember as a kid I was in transport. I thought this was brilliant. It's free school milk, eh? Back into the early days. This was the Tory government, I think 82, just started up. So it would have been the end of school milk. I think I got school milk, and that was the last year that got it. So I lost out on the school. Didn't really like milk actually, but I was the last year that had the opportunity to have it, and it moved on to. They used to give you glass bottles as well. Health and safety of a fit, I suppose nowadays. Here he is, Roddy. Have you been ill recently? Because he's got that big coat that makes him look sort of like he's had an illness and he's lost a lot of weight. It's the fashion. Oh, it's classic. And Gaynor Brown there, or Gay Brown, whatever the name is, was going to marry old Bob Grant, apparently. Mr. of the Teeth. He used to play the conductor on the buses. Funny guy. Another posh English gent playing it common on that. But Lyndhurst here, he went on to do The Two of Us. I used to like that. He did that with Elaine someone. And then he went on to do the Piglet Files, which had, of course, Good Night, Sweetheart, which was his other big classic comedy of where he goes back to the war and he does his posh accent and that. So if you can catch him in that, watch that. You'll see him doing his sort of posh, wears a sort of similar coat to that, I think, when he goes back to the 40s in the war. Sort of time travel comedy. But never really, I mean, good ratings, but I don't think it was ever on a par with this. This was the classic for me. Here he is chatting up the 40-year-old lady, and as soon as you're mending your bike and all that, all the excuses he thinks she's going to give him. But he doesn't care because he went out with a Chinese girl once. And he'll be up to that point in a minute. He's asking her out now with all his. He's got a sort of feckless charm, hasn't he? Rodders. I thought he was brilliant counterpoint to Del Boy, the smart, with it, streetwise Del Boy. I washed my hair last Tuesday. So you go to a nice dinner and dance. So 23 and a half. I love it. We used to. I mean, there was later on. There was a diary called Adrian Mole. The diary, and that was a load of rubbish when they converted that into telly. But I often think whoever wrote that, I can't remember her name now. She wrote. I read it at school and I thought it was rubbish, but she sort of put 13 and a half on that, and I think she probably picked that up from something like this. Of course, pardon me. One of the other big successes of John Sullivan's career was Citizen Smith, which he did just before this. I called an episode of it, Only Fools and Horses, I think. That starred Robert Lindsay, who went on to My Family and was in Hornblower and stuff like that, I think. Another good comedy actor. But here we go, he's pulled his bird, he's got old Irene here. And even though he looks sort of like Herman Munster at the moment, with his big old shoulder pads, another stalwart of the 80s. People might stare at us, me and my old 40 years old. I'm coming up to myself now. God. Be nice to get a bit of a look in with some bird, eh? I went out with Chinese, there it is. And here comes one of my favourite scenes of all time. I love this. Here's Del Boy eating his. Of course, I miss you today. There you go, sync up. He's talking to his girlfriend on the phone, and they all think he's talking to his girlfriend on the phone at the moment. They know he's talking to a bird, but he's going to be sort of put away with that in a minute. That old Del Boy raising the eyebrows, eating his granddad, played by the great Leonard Pierce. He is a classic. Shame he wasn't in very good health, you know. Can I dip my bread in your egg? Classic. I think David Jason was wearing a wig at this point. That slick black, sort of dark. I think he dyed it. He's dipping it in his egg. And there he goes. He's thinking that, Del Boy thinks this is a girl he's talking to, and he's hoping that it is. But of course he's just about to drop it. Or, these are back in the un-PC days when people were a bit less of the tolerant of homosexuals and things like that. So we're about to get that. Who was that, Rodders? Mickey Pierce. Well, there you go. Dell gives us the classic look to say, what is going on here? My brother is a puffer. Pardon me, and that's what they used to call him back in those days. And of course, Mickey Pierce hadn't turned up at this point. He was, I don't want to know, I don't want to know. Never been anything like that in our family. uh, he's so brilliant, isn't he, David Jason? Look, he must have rehearsed this and really got they used to rehearse this, I'm sure. They rehearsed for a week and made it on one night, did it in front of an audience. And that's actually an audience watching them and laughing, not a canned audience like some American sitcoms, where they have all that bloody rubbish laughing. And that's got a bird. A bird is a lady friend for our American cousins. Lolloping about. See, I can understand it's probably another language. It's like in that bit in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels where Danny John Jules is talking in Cockney sort of rhyming slang, and it has to be subtitled. So you're paying 25 pence a week. You have to go around there every week for a year. Hey, get me button pressed. Hey, go every week and get a good shagging. He loves it. He's got himself a mystery. But yeah, I don't know. I know the Americans couldn't really translate this either into anything they could probably watch. I think they tried recently and it just flopped out because you'd never get these sort of acting chops. Because this was so well written. I mean, John Sullivan, for this, he was a genius. I mean, occasionally he'd have a duff episode. I mean, when Leonard Pierce died, they had already made some of the episode he was going to do about falling down holes in pubs. And I think he was sort of pensionable age here. And then they also got Buster Merrifield to take his place as Uncle Albert. And they did the same episode and made him the sort of hero of the episode for trying to buy Grandad's gravestone that they couldn't get. They actually made a comedy episode of it at funeral, and it sort of went along that line of comedy of drama so brilliantly. That's why I think a wider audience, apart from the English nations, should really watch Only Fools and Horses, because this is great. About 30, 40. I think David Jason was in his 40s about now. I mean, he looks, I suppose he's at early 40s, pretending to be about 36, I think. What's wrong with going to have a woman of 30? Nothing at all if you happen to be 50. Oh, brilliant. I love it. They work so well, these three together. She's too old. And there's Grandad getting the big laugh. There was an episode where he got like a Wendy house as his line, and he made the audience die, and they said... And David Jason stood up and said, "We've been here feeding this all night, trying to get laughs, working our balls off." And he says one word, Wendy house, and brings the house down. We're going to resign. Oh, where's her husband? So this is where Del Boy's going to do a bit of creative helping for young Rodney. He's at Parkhurst, which is a massive, I don't know if it still is, but it was a jail in England that they used to send all the dangerous criminals to. Case over the wife of a convict. So he could be the ward or even a governor. Classic stuff. This is there's old Rodders giving it the big one. He really was. I mean, these three, they really complemented each other brilliantly. Big brothers with different fathers. They did sort of investigate that a bit further later on in the series, when Freddie the Frog was found out to probably be Rodney's father, and when later on they did the spin-off series called Rock and Chips, I think it was called, when they had actually went back to the 60s with Del Boy as a young lad. They had Nicholas Lyndhurst play Freddie the Frog as a young man, being the man who shagged his mum and got her up the duff and gave birth to Rodders. And there's an episode here somewhere that Del Boy and Rodney's dad does turn up, and they discuss parentage in a big way. And that was a Christmas special. I can't remember what it was called, but it was another classic. And here they are. If you're tired of having knees in the middle of your legs, I don't want to relate, but I mean, this set is so... It looks 70s really in a way, but this is like your 80s council flat, and this is like where the sort of working class would have their given house, not given, but helped with housing because they couldn't afford to. Little big Legos, so they look like just big tower blocks in the middle of London. This is Peckham, London. Pardon me. He's only done for an attempted murder. See, I think this should play brilliant. This could be made into a stage play, this episode. It's so brilliant. His first success is going to be with Rodney killing old Roddersock because he's getting out of jail soon. They had this set for years and years, and then in the end, the Trotters won the lottery, I think. And once they won the lot, then they did these follow episodes because they couldn't leave it alone. That would have been the perfect end because they sort of walked off into a metaphorical sunset. But they couldn't leave it alone and came back for three, I think, lackluster specials that were supposed to run three times in a row, but they lost all their money, and it was okay, but it really did. They lost the magic. The final episodes, heroes and villains, and the modern man, and time on our hands. They were those. That's where it should have ended, with time on our hands, because that was an absolute stunner. And the Batman and Robin dressing up was. But this, I mean, I was young. My mum and dad had not had the video recorder along. They had sent one away, the old top loader, and got one that used to push the tape into the front, and it would load in onto the film. And what are you going to do, Dale boy? Because he'd always walk around Leonard Pierce there. I think the only thing else I'd seen him in was as like in a background part in Minder, the main sort of competition for this on the other channel, ITV. They all ditch him after and put his name down for Booper. Private care in England. I mean, they had it back then. But I mean, the David Jason here is really on his top form. And they had a producer called Ray Butt, I think, who he used to get the voice off. And he left, sort of. I think he left. You can tell because he left, and you can hear David Jason sort of Cockney changes. I think the last episode Roy Butt did was The Frog's Legacy, maybe, which is about the Freddy the Frog and all that. This ginger lady's been in 40 Towers as a lover of an old fella who was kept up from getting to bed by Basil for a bit too long, and he made a comment about her. She slipped off to bed, but she was only in this season. They changed the barmaid many a time. They never really stuck with one barmaid for too long. And this is before Mike, the barman, arrived either. He arrived at the end of Series 3, I think, when Denzel showed up for the first time. But here they're still building up characters, and so look, there's that vernacular nothing. It's Irene. They've turned down her free bus pass. I mean, he's brilliant, isn't he? What I put down. And of course he's been round there and messed up the affair for young Roddus. And of course Roddus hates that. And but he wants to save Rodney from getting beaten up by the psychopathic ex-husband who's just about to be released from his prison. But Roddy won't see that as any young person will. He'll kick back, say, "Leave me alone, Del. Why do you keep ruining my life? You're a pig." See, this is still... I mean, it could be dramatic, some of this stuff. I mean, they play it for laughs, but a bit of Humpty Dumpty. They play Del was really shallow. I mean, Del was a lot sharper. Del Boy, played by David, was a lot sharper in the early seasons. He got thicker as the Yuppie Love episode, so he got a bit thicker as he went along from there. But here he's much sharper. I mean, even Trigger, played by Roger Lloyd Pack, who's recently died, he used to play... He wasn't as thick as he ended up. He really went to turn into a dime bar, which is an old English thing that means he was a real thick. He used to wear a blue suit. My uncle wore a blue suit to lots of weddings. He had it for about 20 years, I think. You know, call out there to Uncle Tone with your blue bloody suit. But eventually I think they made him burn it, because I think that my sister and someone were at a wedding saying that bloody blue suit he's wearing. And eventually they got rid of it, and I think he now wears a kilt to all the weddings he goes to. I think he wore a kilt to my sister's wedding, actually. Here we go, and this is making Rodney, building him up. Poor kid. I never thought of it like that. Yeah. I think Del Boy's wearing Matt Smith's Doctor Who jacket, isn't he, from now? Like, that he wore for a few seasons before he wore the longer stuff and regenerated into Mr. Capaldi. Just looks like the same jacket to me, same sort of style, to be honest. And he's wearing the fake jewellery to make this character of Del. Apparently he based this character on a guy he knew who was just full of so much front and would always end up failing, but he was the sort of person you'd really like and really enjoy the company of, because he was just such a good guy. These are punk rockers. I mean, this is the early 80s. Look at them, state of them. I mean, they did use no new romantics and makeup, you know. I think it's coming back a bit with the youngsters today, but luckily I sort of had my formative years just leaving the 80s, so I only had a bit of a garish mullet and all that through those years, and lost there in the 90s, thank God, and into the 90s where things were a bit more sort of boring, I suppose, if you like, when things were a bit more generic and down the middle. And no real identity in the 90s, even though I thought it was a great decade, got married in there. The first wife. Oh. Oh, some old tart's giving him the sack. There you go, so you can recite this like that old flock wallpaper on the wall there, like an Indian takeaway. I just remember really, I mean, this, I think the rating started about 10, 11 million for this, which is great for 81, and went up to like 18 million in the course of this season. And here we go, this is Irene's son, Marcus, who happens to be wearing one of the old jackets. Is that slightly suspicious? Do you think I'll give old Roddy a clue? Oh, Roddy is what his later wife Cassandra would call him when he got married in season 6. Smart looking kid, I mean, pick up BBC Two on his hair. Because we used to have aerial, well, we still got aerials now, but I'm sure they'll be superseded soon enough, we won't need them anymore. Everyone's got satellite TV and don't really use aerials now, do they? But he's wearing one of your coats. How does he know your name, Del? You know, what have you been doing? How did you know your husband was released yesterday? The mystery is coming together. It's a little whodunit for Rodders. And of course he's going to be really upset with his big brother Del. Because his big brother Del's basically been more or less a father to him, and he's really worried about his younger brother being beaten up by a psychopathic murderer, well, semi sort of attempted murder. How did Marcus know your name? He's D, my big D. It's obvious my name's Del. Of course it is. But Damien, Derek, Douglas. Damien ended up being Del's son when he got with Raquel a bit later on. From the Jolly Boys outing onwards, I think. Oh no, he met her in Dates, that's right. And she was in for one episode only when Cassandra was met in Dates, and that was a bit of a... Well, he got married to Cassandra later on. And a great episode there where season 6 has some classic moments. That's really the dumbing down of Del, though, where he becomes more of a poltroon, a bit of a clown when he falls through the bar and stuff. You know, the sort of broader humour that the Americans might like. But here we are, this is it. He knows now. Yeah, they're all wearing those coats. They must have had a load of these in the BBC costumes department. I can't see him making them up for this. But season 2 really has got some classic episodes. It's got the classic chandelier episode that gets knocked down, which was like 30 grand in real life, £30,000, I think. So they had one take and one take only of that. There they are, you know, I thought if she thought anything of you, she ought to leave you alone so you wouldn't be in trouble. Where would I be without you? Happy maybe. Really angry. I mean, this is sort of dramatic sometimes. Or you want to end up dead. I mean, David Jason's not a big man, but he can sort of give off the menace. And there's a big age gap between the two. See? It was great. You can see this is set at BBC Centre here. It was a big pile. I think they changed all this later. I think it was Series 6. I think a new producer came in, Gareth Gwendolyn. Yeah, he changed all this set around so it'd be more to the sort of 90 degrees to the left, I think. So the bar would stick out from the side. That must have been Ray Butler. Oh, Ahmed, my son. Yeah, see, they used to cover all the classes, if you like, all the different races and things. They never wanted to be racist, and that. I mean, I suppose this is the coat that Marcus has on. They probably he's holding it again to make it look tight. Out at night, and he's out at night. That could be dangerous, eh, Del boy? And of course, Tommy McKay, Irene's husband, he's just been let out, hasn't he? So what do we think's happened, eh? And of course, he'd be expecting an older fellow, wouldn't he? Not a man of Rodney's young age, eh? Yeah, this is well put together. It's like a sort of in the tradition of an English farce, really, on the stage. Like all sort of English comedy was, really. They click together and have the punchlines. And he's been grabbed by the black guy who's the mate of Mr. McKay. That's not Tommy McKay. And of course, the guy, oh God, what's his name? It was just about Tommy McKay. It doesn't look anything like the picture on the mantelpiece we saw earlier. But there you go. So they must have had some generic picture. But here he is. And another good actor, whose name escapes me for the moment. He's in Doctor Who a couple of times. Was in Boone for years with Michael Elphick, this guy. But he's a really good actor. Plays Menace well as well. But he was sort of Harry in Boone. Played that for years, and he was also in a John Pertwee Doctor Who, the Time Warrior, and the Nightmare of Eden, playing a sort of... I mean, the Time Warrior is a lot better. And Nightmare of Eden, he's playing a sort of space captain, and in the Time Warrior, he's playing the sort of Iron the Lord, who's brilliantly chewing up David, someone, I can't remember his name, Derek, I can't remember. Great actor, just stopped acting, I think, after Boone, didn't see him much after that. but he's in a lot of stuff. And here he is. I'm going to be Rodney. I'm going to take a beating that Rodney should have got, but I'm going to take the beating instead. Leroy, oh dear, a bit of a bit of the old Leroy name. He's taking his nice coat off. I mean, Del Boy's the only one who's got the one that fits, but of course, it's into the drain and into the sewage. The old wheel, whatever it is, coming out there, the sewage water. Yeah, that's upsetting. You've messed my coat up. Here we go. I'm going to beat the crap out of you now. There's a good old fight. And this possibly would happen back in the day of the police, the old Bill. They might possibly have walked away from something like this. You can see as he walks up, whoa, this looks a bit violent. Oh, no, don't want to get involved. I'll leave him to it. Del Boy is kicking ass. You know, I mean, Tommy's getting his licks in, I think. But here he comes, and this is pretty good as well. I mean, look at him, he's been ripped apart, and he's beaten up. And this is, this is a comedy. So it's pretty rough stuff for, a BBC comedy. He's been beaten up. He's got his coat and knocked something over. But he's beat up the other guy, and he's left the road open for Rodney and Irene. I think he's going to stagger into the pub now with the old ginger barmaid. Here he comes, all beaten and busted. They got a good continuity here. I mean, that is good though. It does look. I mean, the BBC, you can't really argue with their makeup stuff and that. They've really done a good job, haven't they? Brotherly love. I think that was the first episode. No, the first episode was called Big Brother. What the bloody hell's happened to you? And here he is taking it. Making sure Del Boy's all right. Because underneath it all, there's so much love between these two. I mean, this is a bit of a light of the extra characters, actually. No trigger. So this is more of an ensemble. So this is a good episode if you're going to start, just to get a feel for the characters. The main characters. Grandad haven't even much. I mean, Grandad did 3 seasons before he died, unfortunately. But Buster Merrifield was good as well. I mean, I don't think he was as good as Grandad, perhaps, but he was just, he was a bank manager, I think, and then he came to the job. But then, I think Rodney Nicholas Lyndhurst here is the only guy who was a sort of juvenile actor. Because I think David Jason was in some of the early, with the early, I think he was with them, before Monty Python. I don't really like Monty Python that much, to be honest. That surreal humour doesn't do it for me. This is, but I mean, when they disbanded for this Do Not Adjust Your Set, David Jason was discarded and upset and went on to work with Ronnie Barker, which of course eventually led him to this, I think. And here they are, they've had a long chat and decided it wasn't going to work, so he took a beating for nothing, really. I've got a box of Black Magic in it, which is an old sort of, I don't think they do it anymore, a box of chocolates for the lady. Go and drop it to her. And of course Rodney, he's wearing his favourite suit, which he would carry on wearing for the next, I think this must be up until Ray Butler, the producer, who sort of lent his Cockney that Del Boy would mimic, David Jason would mimic, and get the accent perfect, and then you get to Series 6 and Butt's gone and the accent slips. And it's okay, but it's never quite the same. I don't think Rodney was always so good. I mean, I always remember we had a Saturday morning show called Saturday Superstore, and Nicholas Lyndhurst was on that, and he spoke as they spoke to him, and he was very posh, very received pronunciation, Oh, here come, and I was a bit surprised because I thought he really did talk like that, as a sort of, South Londoner. Oh yeah, this is Zoe, the fit bird that Rodney's got instead. Is that his hand? Because I think David Jason comes from farce. He did a lot of farce on stage as well. And Bob Grant actually gave him the lead in a play, I think. I can't remember what it was called, but I thought he would be. I'd have that head looked at if I was you. Such true bloody words you said all day, Rodney. Oh, brilliant. Yeah. And we're coming to the close of the episode now, I'm afraid to say. But this was from my youth. This is the best episode from my youth. The first episode I ever taped, and a real classic. I thought Rodney got a bloody good hiding because he took his place and got a kicking. Only Fools and Horses, written by John Sullivan, a genius of comedy, I think. And I just wish that this had translated over the ocean and that the Americans would have liked it, because this had 26 million viewers, I think, at one point when it ended. And I mean, I used to go on holiday with girlfriends and that to Mallorca and Spain and stuff, and they used to have little pubs that would play this. Or they probably still do. They would play episodes of Only Fools and Horses all day and all night. But it's so well made, and I just remember love it. I mean, I used the videotape. I played it so much it warped in the end. And my mum and dad, I actually got enough money to buy the videotapes before the DVDs, and I used to fuzz around and all that. There it is, produced by Ray Butt. There you go, and that's the end of the episode. And I thank you all for listening for my little wander down memory lane there, and let's hope we get some more of the English people and maybe some Americans. You know, Tista, I'm talking to you, and Zarban. Maybe you should try and get the English vernacular and try some Only Fools and Horses and see if you enjoy it. Because, I mean, you probably only know David Jason from A Touch of Frost, and, well, who cares about Touch of... It's okay, but it's never been my favourite David Jason vehicle. But I'm glad you all listened, and we've run out of time, so thank you for listening, and I'll be speaking to you again soon. This is the Spanner Man. That was Only Fools and Horses, A Greater Love. Signing off.